Hello and welcome to another episode of the Construction Corner podcast. I'm Dylan. I'm your host, joined by my blue collar badass. And guys, today we're going to talk about running effective construction and project coordination meetings, really just running a meeting in general. But we're going to talk specifically about construction meetings, coordination meetings, and how to make these super effective for yourself and your team. The reason Matt and I can talk to you about this stuff is, well, we've both been doing this for I'm at 15 years. Matt, you're at 20 plus years. Combined, we're probably close to $1 billion worth of projects executed, both on the construction side and on the design side. So a lot of coordination meetings that we've been a part of. We've probably slept through a few in our days, and we're going to tell you how to make it so that you're not making anybody fall asleep or sleeping yourself in these meetings. So with that, Matt, how's it going, man?
20 plus years. Yeah, man. I'm north of 25 now. Depending on who's counting, it's probably somewhere around 26 or 27. If it's the IRS counting, it's more like 25. But yeah, I have slogged my way through more meetings than I could probably ever count. But that's why we're here, right? We've got some experience under our belts. We're ready to share it. We're happy to share it. But things are good, man. Before we get started, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that as of the day this airs, it is my 20th anniversary with my lovely wife, Carrie. So happy anniversary, Carrie.
Awesome, man. That's also fantastic. That's a
Yeah.
big milestone right there.
Yes, sir. She's been around for the entire ride and she sticks with me. So I don't know who's crazier, her or me, but whatever, it works.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome. Cool. So let's dive into coordination meetings.
Yeah.
Um, and I know you guys are probably cringing a little bit with the word coordination, right? Nobody likes it, or really you don't like the meetings, right? You like things to be coordinated. You want things to know where they're going before you ever get on site. And in the world of BIM, it's pretty cool that we can do this, right? You don't have that stack of shadow boxes in the corner anymore that you got to stack drawings on top of or figure out sections and elevations and all that kind of good stuff. And yes, I have used one. Um, some of you might not know what a shadow box is, but basically it was when you took a set of drawings, lined everything up, and then see what clashed in a little piece of basically what shadows came through the box. So it had a light in the bottom of it and then shined up through the mylar or whatever set of drawings you were using. And then again, you'd see what overlapped in that given area.
And if you couldn't afford those, you had onion skin, which is like tracing paper, and you would just trace shit all over the place. I've done that too. Not the most efficient way to run a construction company.
Yeah, you still see a lot of architects with those. They like to sketch with them, and then they get the old masking tape out and tape a couple designs up
Oh yeah.
in a set of drawings. So coordination, it doesn't have to be a bad word. It doesn't have to cause you a lot of pain and heartache. And especially in the world of BIM, right? We have these 3D models, we have these things set up, and they are useful if you actually use them and have people to walk you through it and lead an effective coordination, right? The reason that most of you guys fall asleep is because nobody ever comes prepared to these meetings. They are just painful. So let's walk through setting an agenda for some of these meetings. But before we get into and actually on the topic of agendas, Matt, what is your thing in preparing an agenda for coordination meetings?
Oh, well, A, you have to do it. I can tell you that today, the day we're recording this, right before recording, the reason I had to bump our time a little bit is because we had a massive and potentially catastrophic coordination failure because we failed to do exactly what you and I are going to talk about in more depth today. Um, Guys, it's crucially important, right? And I'll be the first one to say it, Dylan. We don't use BIM. I've never used BIM. I would love to. Our specialty contractors we use don't use it. I couldn't tell you if it's because if it's a sophistication thing or a cost thing, or I really don't know. You and a bunch of our collective friends through Arte are very heavy in the BIM world, and it looks fantastic. And frankly, had we used it or any version of it or used fucking anything in this case, we wouldn't be sitting in the seat we're sitting in now. And because of that, we have a different meeting that we have to have tomorrow morning with an owner, which went from being an okay type of thing to now it's a real nail biter, which is not fun for anyone involved. So the biggest point, especially on the bullheaded construction guy side, is you got to have these meetings, especially if you're going to play in this design build world that I fancy. Like, you can't get by without them. And part of the preparation for this is, like you said, it's setting up a strict agenda and actually following it. We use kind of a traction based philosophy. So traction, as we've talked about, is a great book by Gino Wickman, the EOS system. Depending on what the meeting is geared towards, it really depends on the format we use, but it all is kind of at least loosely based out of concepts in the traction book. And I think that's kind of where you're coming from too. The talking we did, at least before the show, on how we set it up. But there's lots of ways to do it, but the key is you have to do it and you have to stay consistent. Outside of that, let's kind of explore what the different options are and what you prefer, what I prefer.
Yeah, the one is doing it right. And this comes down to, you've got to have a facilitator, right? Somebody who is in charge, somebody who's leading the meeting, and ultimately somebody that can make decisions, right? I've been in a lot of these meetings over the years, and whenever there's a third party facilitator who is not part of the GC, it really causes some problems, because that person now cannot make decisions on behalf of the team, right? They can't force things through the project. They're bringing all these things up, and then they need a collective answer. And democracy does not work in a construction project.
No,
So
sir.
you kind of need somebody to take charge and lead that effort. And as good as a third party facilitator can be, they really need to work hand in hand with the superintendent or project manager on the GC side for that project, so that kind of going into it, here are the clashes, here are the issues, here are the problems that we're facing in this model, right? If you're running and I'm going to do this through the lens of BIM because it's probably what a lot of you guys understand, and it's the easiest, because you end up getting clash reports out of everything, right? You run all the disciplines against each other, you get a clash report, and then it's really easy just to run down the list of issues. And if the facilitator, if it's a third party person, right, let's just say the general contractor, like in your case, Matt, doesn't have someone in-house who is basically up to speed on a BIM project, you hire a third party facilitator to run all this stuff, do it, make recommendations. You meet with them prior to this meeting, and then going into it, you can basically have that third party person navigate. They can drive right through the model, do all this stuff, and then you're helping to make decisions with the all the trades as you go down the list, right? And that makes it pretty simple. But when you have somebody who's facilitating but doesn't have any authority vested in them, it really makes for a lackluster meeting. So one is have a facilitator. I think that is the first and foremost thing that you have to have, is somebody that knows how to run Navisworks, right, and run these BIM models and do clash detection reports across everybody. I mean, this also means that everybody has designed everything in Revit, right? Your steel guy, your architecture models, your specialty contractors, especially mechanical, plumbing, and fire protection. Honestly, electrical isn't as important. Now, from a lighting perspective, it is, because you need to make sure sprinkler head doesn't go straight through a light fixture, right? Simple stuff, but you only put lights in so that everyone else avoids them. That's the only reason why electrical is there. They're not going to move, so everyone else moves around them. That's like the basis of, everybody's got a model in Revit, have a facilitator, and then you could start running reports and go from there. But that's kind of the basis of how these meetings are going to run, and having that point of contact.
So I'm dying over here because one of the issues that came up this afternoon is that we forgot to put lights inside this fucking building. Forgot the lights. So I said, well, how's anyone going to see? Now again, we're not BIM capable, but it would appear to me as just a dumb carpenter that you need lights inside the building to see, to do anything, to exist. So while I'd like to say I don't think it should need a coordination meeting to catch things like this, had we had one, I'm guessing it would have been caught. And, you know, from my side, I kind of like this. We're going to kind of bounce back and forth because you obviously come from the design side, the heavy BIM, and I am, a dumb knuckle dragger here. But meeting structure is very the same, right? You have to have somebody leading the charge. And in our world, the facilitator or whoever's, the leading lead is on the meeting has to be able to push it forward is what we've found. And because if you don't, you call them lackluster, that's polite. They're fucking brutal, right? They're miserable wastes of time. Nobody likes meetings. A great meeting is a short meeting that is quick and to the point and efficient. And so we've done a lot of things here at Schaefer Construction. One of them is we took a page out of Ed Milet's book, and any normally half-hour meeting we now schedule for 25 minutes. And the same, any hour-long meeting, we schedule it for somewhere between 45 and 50 minutes. Because the reality is, if you can't cut 5 or 10 or 15 minutes of bullshit out of the meeting, you're doing it wrong. Or you're doing it right, I guess should be. If there's nothing left to cut, you're doing it great. But you really need to have that facilitator, somebody driving the ship, so that you don't just keep spinning in circles. And we even on our staff meetings, which is a little bit different, we have time limits printed right on the agenda for every section. This gets 10 minutes, this gets 5 minutes. And if you don't follow that, I'm not saying we're perfect by any means, right? But you got to have somebody kind of cracking that whip, like, okay, time to move on. We took too long. I will say though, what kills me in this also, and today is not going to be just me bitching, but there's a healthy dose of that coming. The facilitator has to be the one who is ultimately the most prepared, right? Whoever's leading the meeting has to know every bit of what has to be covered, what the outcomes are, what the objectives are, and so on. But every other damn person who shows up on that meeting, either in the call or in the conference room, needs to be at least moderately prepared. What happens when you get the guy who shows up or a woman who shows up unprepared? Inevitably they get put on the spot or they get asked a question, and if they don't have an answer or any sort of reaction available because they weren't ready for it, the meeting immediately crashes to a standstill and productivity goes straight down the toilet. So that would be my comment on that is, yes, the person in charge needs to be the most prepared, but everybody needs to show up prepared and know what the hell the goal is. What are we talking about? What do we need to do today? Let's get on the call and get the hell off it so we can get back to doing actual work. Because you get stuck in meeting hell, right? You get stuck in a never-ending meeting and everyone wants to go to sleep afterwards.
Exactly. And so there's 2 points that I want to make. One is, like, you not being in the BIM world, dude, you're not alone, right? Like, by the nature of being an electrical engineer, like, my projects are just big, right? Like 20 million is kind of like the baseline for most shit that I work on, right? Of construction costs. Just that's kind of what it is. Maybe 10, right? Like for a small thing. And that's just kind of the nature of being an electrical engineer. You don't need us for anything smaller. It's just how it works, right? I've got $100 million industrial project I'm working on right now, and that's a whole to do because of all the underground, all the geopiers. Like, underground is a nightmare, right? Like, we have just a lot of complicated stuff, plus all the processing equipment, everything else that needs to go into that project. So
do you put lights inside the building?
we're getting there. They're
Okay.
not modeled yet, but we have drawings for them.
Just checking.
Yeah, and we got to figure out how to put them around exhaust ducts and dust collector systems so that you can actually see under the dust collectors.
Hey, good idea.
But this is again why you have those meetings and a
Yes.
model. So again, you're not alone for not having BIM, right? I would still say a vast majority of the industry operates in CAD, they operate in 2D, and then shit, man, the whole like home building industry is on a, freaking 3 sheet work ticket, right? White, pink, and a yellow work ticket that somebody got off like they're taking orders at, your local diner. So, I mean, that's what it is, right? It's what it is. It's not making fun of those guys. It's a thing. So there's that, right? Like you're not alone, but coming into this, you can see the level of sophistication that you can get to in these projects. And then for me, it's almost standard. Like this is a standard operating procedure and how we move through a project so that we avoid a lot of these issues as we move through. And so when you talk about the facilitator being the most prepared, the comment I want to make here is that these are not work meetings, right? This is not a working session. This is a make decision. Like meetings are meant to make decisions at, right? Now you can have work sessions, working collaboration sessions, like, the plumber and the mechanical guy need to get together to figure out how to not put a pipe through a duct, right? Real simple shit. But you need to have that. That's a working session meeting between two trades. When all trades, and again, for these like coordination BIM meetings, typically these are construction stuff. Like we do have these somewhat in the design world. And the best firm that I worked at, shit, man, we had a day where all trades, all design disciplines sat down in a conference room for you blocked out your entire day and we thumbed through the entire set and every discipline would lead their thing. And as the electrical guy, we were last because no one gives a shit. And we're sitting there all day to go through the entire set of drawings. And, you might sit in there all day and you pick up 2 things, but those 2 things end up mattering a whole lot at the end of it. So they become worthwhile for sitting for 8 hours in these just awful coordination meetings, but you're going through the entire set, you're picking up things. Then you also know a lot about these projects. And in a design firm, what this also means is that I can talk fully about this project to anybody on the street, right? I know the full breadth of whatever project we're doing, be it a dorm, a manufacturing facility, whatever we were working on. You'd be able to go and talk about it. So yes, the facilitator needs to be, so in the construction, when we're talking about BIM and clash detection, all that, that's typically on the construction side, right? This is trades, this is doing basically shops and a model to build everything from. And so in these, you do typically they need to be led by the general contractor so that they can basically disseminate and make decisions like, hey, plumber doesn't want to move their shit, mechanical guy doesn't want to move their shit, and somebody makes a decision to like who moves what where, and we move on, right? And we sign off on it and we move to the next unit. So yes, the facilitator needs to come the most prepared, right? They have basically their list of items to check through, and this is how we run. Each discipline is represented in the meeting, right? Which is why attendance is kind of mandatory in these things, making sure who's there, disseminating meeting minutes out for it. And it should be action items, right? This isn't like, hey, mechanical, make sure you meet with plumbing. Like that's a fine meeting note, but that doesn't tell anybody anything, right? Here's the 6 things you need to do. And it's not go check this other file sharing site to pull down the list of things. Like that should be attached to the meeting minutes so that somebody doesn't have to log in. They don't have credentials, shit got fucked up that, it's like, well, you didn't send it to me. Well, it's up in the cloud. Hey, send all those schedules, anything that you reference needs to be attached to those minutes on the backside of it. But I am getting ahead of myself in putting this together. But that facilitator should have the agenda prepared, everything that they're going to run through. They know the basically ins and outs of that building, and they know what they're going to run through. Each discipline knows what they're going to do and can make decisions on behalf of the firm that they're representing, right? They're not sitting there without any authority to do anything in the meeting, right? Especially on like in these construction coordination meetings specifically.
It's so critical to have all those parties in the same room or on the same call, whatever it may be. It reminds me of those memes that you see where like the guys painting the stripes on the roads, like paint this big loop around a roadkill, and this thing is just like, not my job. And like, I just saw one recently where a pipe's coming out of the ground and it has like 15 different elbows to get around a rock. Like that's what you end up with if you don't have representation of all of the different parts of this massive puzzle that we play with. Um, you know, the agenda and the minutes are crucially important. I think that's one thing that a lot of people miss is the agenda, period. There's a lot of meetings that I've been a part of that we weren't running or that I wasn't running that have no written agenda. And again, in the interest of everyone's time, it's like preparing for a podcast. It's like preparing for a exam. You have to have that kind of roadmap of what needs to happen. So, guys, I mean, stay tuned. We're going to post some notes, some higher level notes off after this show, and we'll have kind of an example rundown of an actual agenda that Dylan and or myself have used. But just know that that's how you start the organization process. That's how you let the facilitator really lead the show. That's how everyone else knows what to be prepared for and what's coming up. And best case is you distribute that agenda. There's no rule of thumb, but earlier than 5 minutes before the meeting. I'm guilty of that myself because I get too caught up in things, and I'll typically release it at the meeting, which is not great. But even then, at least then everyone knows, here's what we're covering, here's what we have to get through, and they get in the right mindset so that you don't get off on these tangential, conversations that have no effect on what's at hand here. Let's talk about a little bit about meeting etiquette while we're at this point, because I think that goes a long way too. I've got some bullet points and some thoughts, but what do you think, Dylan, what is the highest level, the biggest piece of etiquette importance that people should have when being in part of these construction meetings?
The one that really comes to the top of mind, and there's going to be a lot, and we'll go through them, but is right time, right topic, right? Like you have, so again, if you're going off an agenda and we're going through old business, right, which is basically all the housekeeping items, right? Any bid items, any RFIs we need to clean up. Here's the RFIs that got issued, or here's the ones that have answers to and we need to correct. Here's, updated schedules, right? All the basic housekeeping stuff. Well, you're not going to dive into like your specific change order in like old business, right? It's right time, right place, I think is the biggest one. And really having, if you go by Robert's Rules of Order, you have a sergeant at arms, right? Or that facilitator who cuts people off and makes sure that, hey man, this is not, we'll deal with that later. We're on this, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it is now, we will cover that later. And honestly, that doesn't get done nearly often enough or
Nope.
ever, to cut people off and say, hey, that's valid. That's for sure important. Another time, another place. We're covering, unit A items right now, and we're covering plumbing, right? We're not covering, unit E electrical light placement, like it's not the right time for that. So that would be, again, there's a lot, but that's probably the biggest blunder, if you will, in these meetings is some guys got an agenda that they want to run, not the agenda of the meeting.
Well, and it's fucking rude, right? Dude, I used to work very closely with a guy, and I won't say his name, but he did this all the time. And he would sit there like in a cloud, paying zero attention, and then all of a sudden just blurt out whatever the fuck he had on his mind. And he would do this. It didn't matter if it was an internal meeting, a meeting with clients, prospects, anywhere. And me I'm very organized. I'm very stick to the line, right? We don't want to be here any longer than we have to. It would leave me speechless with my jaw dropping. Like, what the hell just happened here? Like, what are you doing? So I would agree. That's hugely important. I mean, there's a lot that we could go through, but just it comes down to just paying fucking attention, right? Be where your feet are. You are here for 25 or 45 minutes, whatever it is. commit the damn time to just this. And I've even thought of doing some of my kids teachers at school will have them drop their cell phones in a basket when they walk into the class. Now, you can say what you want about having cell phones in the classroom. We never were even able to, but
Didn't
and
exist back then.
we had pagers, fucker. It was a beeper and it was awesome. But
Phone
you get
tablets.
you, you get the guys who are sitting there playing on their phone or playing on their laptop. And I get it. Some people take notes on their laptop, but I would bet you that 9 out of 10 of those people with their laptops open are checking emails or they're texting or they're looking up, somewhere to make dinner reservations. And it's just, not only is it rude, but it derails the meeting. You're there for a purpose. You're there for a very short time, hopefully. And if you can get your head out of your ass and just pay attention, that time can be as short as humanly possible. So just be there, be present, and if you have nothing to add to the meeting, you still need to be present. Take notes, pay attention. And if you have no business being in that meeting, that's another topic we should get to in a bit. You shouldn't be there in the first place. And that's the job of whoever set it up. We're usually the facilitator.
Yeah, and I've been guilty of this too, and especially in coordination meetings, because it's like, dude, I'm the electrical guy, right? You're not moving my lights. And then usually it comes down to it like, well, anything for electrical? I don't know. You tell me, man. Like all my stuff is there. Like, what do you want? Don't hit our conduits, don't touch our lights, right? Real simple. And so you get a lot of these where they're just going back and forth, and I'm guilty of it. Like, I'm working on another project because this guy is not prepared. We're not really blowing through anything, and we're droning on about some duck that I really don't care about. And but this goes back to like bad facilitator, no agenda, no course of action. Like, why are we even here, guys? Other than we signed up for and agreed to whatever 10 BIM coordination meetings at the beginning of this project, and we're going to show up because you paid us to be here. But it's one of those deals of like, okay, well, I've got to sit through this, but I'm going to work on other stuff because you're inept at running a meeting. And it's not really chicken and the egg, but it's like, if you're not going to be respectful of everyone's time, like, why am I going to respect your time? And it's a different deal when, like, so those 8 hour meetings that I talked about for coordination, like, dude, you're in there all day. Like, and I'm just sitting there, it's blocked off on my calendar. It is what it is, right? Like, I'm sitting there, we got a screen up, the whole design team is there. And I've done this with owners too. And oh man, it can be a pain. But there's like, I've done these where you have those, I mean, 50-person conference tables, and they're full of, you've got 15 design team members and then the owners and their people there for all the departments that are part of the project. And so it can be a full undertaking to do some of these big design review meetings to make sure all their stuff's in there. And those are necessary, but you're not doing anything else with it. And then the point on laptops and meeting notes, I've never seen somebody that has been effective at taking notes on a laptop. Every single architect that I've respected, or person in any meeting, because it's usually architects that take meeting minutes, right, for the design stuff. That's just what it is. So the ones that I've always respected did it all by hand, right? That means they're focused, they have no distractions, no nothing, and they're typically doing it on grid paper and a felt tip pen, man. But that's what it is. Uh that's the ones that I've respected the most. They're present, they're getting everything, and that's what it is.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's scientifically proven that you pay closer attention and you retain more when you handwrite notes versus typing or anything. Now, I will say we've converted a few of us here to Remarkables. So they're those paper white tablets, and they don't do anything other than write. There's no bells or whistles. There's no games. There's no color. So those I consider in the same line as a notepad. They just save notepads, but you have to do that because you're right. The guy and it's distracting, right? To hear the click, 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 the guy who's just furiously typing. And then I know when I like, it doesn't matter if I'm running the meeting or not. When I hear that, I'm always thinking like, is this asshole like emailing his wife about dinner? You
Yeah,
know,
you can't see the screen. And so what those guys did too, and again, I worked in bigger 100-person design firms. So there was usually a handful of admin folks. And so basically, whenever we got back from those meetings, they take their stack of notes and hand it over to the admin to get typed up, and then
Yeah.
they'll proofread them, make sure they're all good. But it's formatted in the company format. They proofread them, make any edits that they need, and then it gets sent off to the distribution list.
So good segue. Let's talk about meeting minutes and the importance of them, because I can tell you from our side, it's crucially important, especially, I mean, a lot of the shit we talk about is contract related in our meetings, but I can tell you we're probably less than 50% in the times when we actually produce and distribute meeting minutes. And that's, to me, it's a miss, but you gotta, well, I want to hear your take on that first before I go on.
So again, growing up in these kind of 100-person design firms, which are fairly solid. And there's one old crusty bastard of an architect that I worked on some projects with, and his take on all this stuff is if it's bad, right? Like if something is not going the way that you need it to go, you pick up the phone and call, right? Because phone calls are not recorded and they're not discoverable. So you pick up the phone, you call, and then you write an email to document what was said after, right? Like that's how those things go. So in meeting minutes, it's the same kind of thing, right? Here's everything that was discussed in that meeting. So if, because again, for design meetings, owners meetings, construction update meetings every week, where if something is not collected in those meeting minutes and or amended after the fact, right? Usually you have whatever 48 hours to amend a set of meeting minutes after they go out, or to make corrections, additions to the minutes, right? You're not rereading. It's not like a business meeting where you reread last minute's meetings and then you can correct and amend them. It's done by email and they just stand as typed. So he who issues the meetings, kind of wins. So you need to correct them and do that in writing. So for meeting minutes, if it's not in writing, it does not exist. So if you agreed to something, this is especially true in construction meetings, but also in design meetings, right? Owner says that they wanted X, Y, or Z. It is not in any meeting minutes. Owner gets what owner pays for. So owner will, pony up and deal with it. But you can also say, like, look, man, it might have been discussed somewhere, but we have no record of it. It was not amended to any meeting minutes, and you have all those things to fall back on. Are they a pain in the ass to create? Yes, but you need to have a system for it, right? Like the old architect who writes everything down in the meeting, hands it to the admin when they get back in the office. Admin types it up, they send it out. It might take 2 days to do it, but taking 2 days to do it, having a system to do it is better than the meeting minutes never getting issued. And this is why admins exist, is for a lot of the spec work, paperwork, billing, like a lot of that, well, maybe not billing, but like a lot of those kind of administrative tasks to help the team get it done, right? This is the same for RFIs and all the other paperwork through that. So that is my big take on meeting minutes. It is a protective thing more than anything else, for you and your firm to basically say what happened, and then it becomes discoverable in anything else, right? It's ultimately comes down to a legal thing, and he said kind of deal, you know. But that's my 2 cents on meeting minutes.
It's spot on, man. I don't have much to add. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a legal protection. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, because I think a lot of arguments and issues that could come up can be solved by just going back and sitting down, having a conversation with those minutes in hand, saying, well, actually, here's what we talked about. We all agreed on X, Y, and Z, this, and this. Let's just agree that, maybe that's not what you wanted, but that's what we said. So we move on. And again, if it does come into a lawsuit, then, that's why we do daily field reports, which is essentially meeting minutes that cover the day, right? The day's tasks. We do them on our sites. So it's important. talking about it now makes me realize I need to really kind of beat that drum around here, because some of the stuff we're talking about, even this meeting that I've been bitching about today, had we had a meeting of any sort and collected and done meeting minutes correctly and distributed them, a lot of these headaches would not be headaches. They would just be minor issues that get discussed. But now we have no building blocks to go show how we got from point A to point B. And that's where it's a real shit place to be. So just do the damn minutes.
Yeah. And if you weren't the one to create them, make sure that you read them and submit back any corrections to the minutes if there
Quickly.
are any.
Quickly.
Yeah, 24 to 48 hours is what you have time wise. It's not 2 weeks, it is 1 to 2 days.
Yeah, man, it's like a contract. We talked about contracts a couple weeks ago on the show. Like, that basically becomes a contract of yours. And if you're not going to take the time to peruse it, like, you're setting yourself up for disaster.
Yeah. And on that, for whoever writes them, so I've seen some here recently done by again, this is a third-party facilitator for a project doing coordination. So they're issuing minutes on behalf of everybody, which if I was the GC, is not putting them in a good place. But nonetheless, they are vague notes, right? They are vague meeting minutes. So when you have vagueness, I can build a pretty good case on a lot of vagueness. So be specific in your meeting notes, right? Or that, hey, we discussed XYZ, right? Like we discussed I don't know, whatever. Wainscoting being whatever color will be determined at next meeting, right? Or mock-up will be provided of wall segment, and owner will review. We will discuss again at next meeting whether the wall section is approved, right? Whether they like the mortar color, whatever it is, right? Like, so put those specific details in there of, hey, we talked about it, no decision was made. We'll decide at a further point in time.
Yeah. And it just protects everybody, right? It's going back to being fair. What we talked about with contracts, being fair. It provides protection for everyone involved on all sides of the table. There's even AI bots or programs now you can, for your virtual meetings, that you can add in. I mean, Zoom has a native one. I played around with one that it basically will take meeting notes for you, and surprisingly and frankly, kind of disturbingly accurate in what it produces. I wouldn't rely on those 100%. There's some definite downfalls. The one that I was using, like, would log into your meeting as it would show as a person, and that freaks people out sometimes. But regardless, just however you want to do it, make sure you're doing them.
Two things on having that. And this is again, not a lawyer. This is not a legal advice. When you record meetings, know that now all those meetings are discoverable. So if there's shit that you don't want on the true record, do not record your meetings. And then number two, if you use AI, now all of those recordings will be discoverable. So meeting minutes are typically heavily edited for the, 20 minutes of yelling about a fucking tile color that nobody gives a shit about anyway, except for like two people. And it's like in the meeting minutes, that 20-minute discussion would be discuss tile color, will determine at a future date. Like, that is the meeting minute, not the, Bob yelled at Susie for picking purple when Bob wanted, magenta. Like, it's none of that type of dialogue, right? We're not writing a script here. It is a simple, clear, concise record of what happened, what got decided. That is it. There is an art to making meeting minutes.
No, totally. It's not designed to be a transcription. It's designed to be a summary. And point noted on the discovery side, unless you're dealing with the CIA, and then everything's discoverable whether you record it or not. But
yeah, you're fucked at that point.
That's
anyway.
A different story, man.
So yeah, that's my, just note that a lot of this is legal stuff. Not that I've had to go through it, but I've been around enough old crusty architects that have been around enough to know what to say, what not to say.
What not to say is one of the most important things to learn. So we're kind of pushing up on time, and I'm going to turn to the facilitator here so we don't run too far over. What else do you want to touch on real quick before we get off the mics?
Yeah, so below this episode, we'll put in kind of a rough agenda, and I'm just going to breeze through it real quick so that you at least have it in voice here. But look, take attendance, top of the meeting, what the meeting's about, have a simple description up top so that everybody knows. You need primary points of contact, right? That's in your attendance list. If you've seen any like normal construction minutes, it has all this, right? There's a bajillion, it's like a full page of people that show up to these things. That's how it goes. You got a lot of people, you need a lot of people. So do that. Primary points of contact, make sure everybody knows who they are. This is super important. So if somebody needs to bitch at somebody or get a decision made, they know who to contact, phone and email. Go through old business, again, housekeeping items, whatever those might be, bid items, schedules, budgets, clash detection reports, coordination resolution, RFIs, submittals, all the standard stuff that y'all know and love, right? And some of this might not be in a coordination meeting. Some of it might be. Some of this will absolutely be in every single construction update meeting that you have weekly with design team, contractors, everybody that gets on those meetings, which is, again, a boatload of people. So again, make sure that you have your housekeeping items, whatever they might be. New business. So whatever you want to talk about that day. Usually construction meetings have their own set of things, right? Hey, it's a construction update. We're in area A. This, and this has gotten done. We're on schedule, not on schedule, right? And that kind of goes in somewhat old business, somewhat new business. There's the look back, there's the look forward. And again, just make sure those are in the right places to talk about schedule in those types of manners. Come up with any resolutions, action items, sign-offs that need to happen, whether that's payment reports or payment stubs, sign-off dates, completion dates, that we are going to sign off on a given area or given set of work, things like that. Any resolutions that need to come to a head, certificate of occupancy, whenever you get to those dates, things like that, fire watch, whatever they might be. Milestone dates, again, schedule items, right? And you can break these out into separate places or talk about schedule all at once. Usually closing the meeting with like next milestone dates and takeaways is a really good way to do it, so that everybody knows when they're getting up to leave what they've got to do next. So instead of burying schedule in the middle of the meeting, I typically like to have, milestone dates, and it's not like, hey guys, go check the schedule that I released in the 12-page Gantt chart. Nobody's going to look at that. So like actually talk about it in the next like 4 critical dates that everyone should be aware of. Miscellaneous business, typically like anything that's not been covered, special whatevers, right? So if let's say you're working on a school, hey, we have a parent teacher thing, or we have some special day or special events to know about, or if you're in a hospital, like, hey, make sure that our work hours are going to be from whatever, 10 p.m. till 2 a.m., Monday, Wednesday, Thursdays, right? Whatever it is. So any of those special considerations, miscellaneous business, it's a good place to put them. And yeah, that's kind of just a quick rundown of what an agenda should look like. You can look up Robert's Rules of Order. There's a lot of things like look up agendas. They're pretty simple to put together. And if you follow them, everyone can be on the same page and kind of know where to talk about the things that they need to talk about. And if you send it out early enough, like Matt talked about, people can add the things that they want to the agenda that they might have, right? Like the owner could have something that they want to talk about, and it might be a 15-minute thing that they need to like let everybody know about that's specific to that site, right? Shutdowns or safety briefing, or hey, you need to go get this, that, and the other training, whatever it might be, super important to note. So those are I think, big things in agenda. And again, just when you give a shit, a lot of this becomes pretty easy.
That's just it, guys. We're trying to help you make a very painful aspect of our lives less painful, right? Nobody likes meetings. They're all terrible. You can make them less terrible by following some pretty simple and straightforward rules and being organized. Collect your thoughts ahead of time so you know what's coming. Collect your thoughts afterwards so everyone is on the same page, and move on. Don't dwindle in it. Don't waste time. You know, the biggest last word I'll have is be early. Don't be fucking late. On time is late in our world. We live and die by schedules. If you have a meeting scheduled at a certain time, you don't have to be there 10 minutes early, but don't be the guy that walks in the door 5 minutes after or logs into the Zoom call, you know, when everyone's already been sitting there chatting for 3 minutes, wondering where the hell Matt is. You know, just it's just common courtesy, but it goes a long way to keeping these things productive, efficient, on schedule, so you can get the hell out of there and get back to what you do that actually makes you money.
Yep. And in a future episode, we'll talk about maker schedules and manager schedules and what those look like, who should be sitting in meetings all the time and who should not, so that you can keep making money and you can keep making decisions. And those are two very distinct positions within your firm. So know who needs to be in meetings and know who does not.
That's right, man. Nobody makes money in meetings other than attorneys.
You can, yeah. Well, we'll cover that in another episode.
Sounds good.
All right, man. Anything else we want to talk about in coordination meetings and kind of meetings in general? In the upcoming episodes, I will brief this real fast. We're going to talk about like toolbox talks, other quick meetings that you can have to be effective. This month, we're really just going to cover a bunch of meeting topics. So might be a little boring, but these are going to be super effective for you guys in helping you to get through meetings, have effective meetings, have a plan in place, have schedules, why you should run coordination meetings, which we covered today. Super important so that you know how to light a building. Then toolbox talks to help you get started for the day. And we're going to go through a couple other super effective meetings, 360, stuff like that, to, again, help you be effective in the meetings that you do have. And we all have them. We just need to get through them effectively and so that nobody falls asleep.
Yeah, that's the name of the game, man. And guys, we're making a concerted effort to kind of restructure how we're approaching these shows. So we're, like Dylan just said, we're gonna kind of stick to a monthly topic and then break it into 4 different segments that we think will be the most helpful, and then move on to another topic next month and month after that. So if you have any topics that you would like to see hit this rotation, by all means, reach out to either one of us. We're pretty easy to get a hold of, and we'll take it into consideration.
Until next time.